Hey guys, American Pizza Books here, and today I'm back at you with another book review, and that is going to be on Never Fade by Alexandra Bracken. This is the second book in the Darkest Minds trilogy. So basically, this book leaves off about 6 months after the first book. At the end of the first book, mild spoilers here, but Ruby, the main character, Ruby Dowley, who we follow, is captured by the League, and now she is part of the League. She's pretty much fallen in with the League and stuff like that. And we kind of see, what the training that she's gone through and what she's just been going through in general, all the internal struggles and battles that she's going through as she's, in the League and everything. We get introduced to some new characters. We get introduced to Jude and Nico and Vita and a few others. We also get introduced to Liam, who is the other main character, basically the main love interest of this trilogy, because Ruby and Liam are like the power couple of this trilogy, as is with the case with most of these, because this is a young adult trilogy, so most of the time you do have, the couple of the story. We have Liam's older brother, Cole, who we are also introduced to, and he has a secret of his own, so that's pretty interesting. But yeah, it takes place about 6 months afterwards. And basically what happens is there is a flash drive that happens to be in the possession of Liam, and it has some very important information on it. And basically Ruby strikes up a deal with the founder of the League, and his name is slipping me at the moment, but she strikes up a deal with him and is to go on to this mission to find this flash drive. Now, during a simulation, basically, in the League, they have these simulations where they go on these simulated missions as, like, practice and everything, and when they're going on an actual mission, Ruby, along with Jude, slips away from it and is able to slip away from the League so she can track down this flash drive. So, that's pretty much the plot of this whole thing. Her breaking out of the League and breaking out on her own again, and us, getting to know these new characters and everything, and, also developing the thing that happened between Ruby and Liam at the end of the first book, which I'm not going to spoil here, but we get more of that, and we do get quite a bit of angst with that. There's quite a bit of angst with Liam and Ruby in this one. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say for that one. All I'm going to say for the plot of this one. I'm just going to go into the review and talk about what I liked and didn't like. I'm just going to go about what I didn't like at first. Now, to be really honest with you, there really wasn't a whole lot that I didn't like, because, look, with books in general, I'm not really that picky, and there really wasn't anything much that I disliked about this book, other than the fact that it kind of suffers from, the second book syndrome. Like, you got a trilogy, you've got the first one that kind of lays the ground and gets you hyped up, and then you've got the finale, the last book in the trilogy, that's kind of like, okay, this is what's going to happen, this is going to be how it ends, boom. And then you've got the middle book, the second book, which is kind of just sort of filler. That sounds kind of bad. Not exactly filler, but it's still very much just the second book in the trilogy. You've got the beginning, you've got the finale, then you just kind of got everything in between. And that's pretty much what this book is. I mean, we learned some more stuff in this book in terms of the world building and character development and stuff like that. But, if I had any complaints, it'd probably be that it just still suffers from, second book syndrome and everything. But, I mean, that's really all I would have in terms of, like, what I didn't like. And it's not really the fault of Alexandra Bracken's, it's the second book. So, but as far as, like, characters go, the characters in this trilogy are just, Alexandra Bracken really does a good job of developing these characters and making them seem real. The thing that I love about the main character, Ruby, is that she's not a Mary Sue by any means. Like, she's definitely not perfect. I mean, she has got her flaws. In the first book, she was very much a broken shell, which she's getting out of the camp and everything, and she thinks that she's a monster because of her powers and what she can do, and she just doesn't really have a whole lot of control over them, so therefore, like I said, she thinks she's just a horrible person for them, and just a monster and everything, and she's kind of a scared being, sort of. In this book, in the beginning of this book, we see that she has become much more cool and controlled and collected and everything. We still see the cracks in her minds at times, but we see that because of the training that she's had, she's become a lot more, like I said, controlled, disciplined, cool, and not cold, but the thing about Ruby in this book is that she tries to, distance herself emotionally from the people that she meets, because she doesn't want to get attached to them, because if anything happens to them, then it's just going to happen. The same thing that happened to her in the first book would happen to her all over again. So she's kind of, put a shield around herself emotionally so that she doesn't get attached to anyone else. But we see Ruby develop in that way. But like I said, we still see the cracks in her every now and then. And she's still got her internal struggles. She struggles with her powers, with who she is as a human being, what her place is in the world and everything. She is very much a flawed main character, a flawed heroine, and I love that about Ruby. We get a lot of development with the other characters. Liam, we get back with him after what happened with him at the end of the last book, and same thing. I mean, he's very much, just very much a developed real character. He doesn't feel like a cardboard cutout or anything like that. With Chubbs from the first book, who's also another, one of the main characters from the first book, we kind of see what's happened with him, because his character was kind of left off on a cliffhanger in the first book, and we see what's going on with him, and even he's changed a little bit. He's become a little bit more hardened, a little bit more, a little more hardened, a little more, we see that he's struggling with his own things, I mean, all the characters in this book are struggling with their own things and whatnot, but, and even with the new characters, they all feel fleshed out and real and developed and everything. Vita is very much, Vita was one of the new characters we're introduced to, and she's very much just a hothead and everything, very hot-headed, very, just, she says some funny things. We get Jude, who is very much like that little brother character and everything, but even we get some backstory with him too, and what was going on in his life before he got shipped off to, he was never, I believe he was never in one of the camps, because some of the children in the children's league were never in camps, and they never actually experienced what it's like being in those camps. And then we've got Nico, who has a whole backstory of his own. But yeah, so in terms of character development and just characters in general, I'd give it a 5 out of 5. In terms of the pacing, there really wasn't very many slow parts in this book. There may have been a few slow parts. For the most part, the pacing is pretty good. In terms of the world building and everything, Alexandra Bracken continues to build on the world and everything. We continue to learn more about. We learn more about the League. We learn more about, the powers and everything. We start to see some of these characters really come into their own powers and everything. Yeah, so I mean, there's really not, like I said, there's really not a whole lot I can say about this book that was really bad necessarily. Again, just the fact that it's very much, the second book in a trilogy. It's the second book syndrome. Like I said, I mean, you're kind of just, like I explained, I won't go over it again, but you get what I mean. But yeah, so all in all, I'd say this is a pretty good second entry in the trilogy. I'd give it a 4 out of 5. I mean, it's not the fact that it just kind of suffers from second book syndrome, and not all second books suffer from that, but this one did still sort of suffer from it, so I kind of would knock off a star for that. But other than that, it's still very good. Still very, very good continuation of the story. And yeah, that would be my score. 4 out of 5. Good book. And hopefully we'll be back soon with the review of the final book in the trilogy. So that's it for this one. Peace, and keep on reading.